Thank you so much for joining us today for this webinar hosted by Test My Pitch. I've known Bill for a number of years. He has been around the pitching world for a few years. Sorry, Bill. And he's going to talk to us a little bit about perfecting your pitch. And we're talking about the pitches that will happen on stage to a large group of investors. But he's also going to talk about that 10-second pitch, the moment that you're standing in front of your innovation poster and the investors are coming by, how to make the most effective 10-second pitch to engage them and tell them about what you do. How's that, Bill?
Perfect. Thank you, Paige, and really appreciate everybody coming today, and thanks to CTC for not only hosting the webinar, but also the Innovation Summit, which has become the real big event for investors and tech founders to meet. So thank you, Paige, for all that you guys do. It's fantastic. So let's pop in, and as Paige said, my name is Bill Kenny. We have a company called Test My Pitch, and just to give you kind of a frame of reference, Paige said I've been watching pitches for a bunch of years. It's actually sadder than that. In the last 12 months, I've been to over 100 pitch events, which for anyone that goes to very many pitch events, you know there's a lot of pizza involved. So I have to go out on my bike and do a lot of miles just to make up for all that. But it's what I hope to share with you today is some of the things that I've learned and observed, I guess, from seeing both really good pitches and people be challenged by pitching. And so the idea, obviously, is to help you perform as well as you can at the Innovation Summit in November. And so let's take a look. And of course, there always has to be a disclaimer with any of these types of things. So obviously, what you're going to get today is opinion. Hopefully, it's somewhat informed opinion, but you're going to find that there's a lot of customizing, a lot of, and I think you'll see as we talk through this, that you really have to be pretty nimble when you pitch. And that's, ultimately it starts probably with something that's pretty firm in terms of what you're going to say, but it's really ultimately about the audience. And that's if I were going to give any disclaimer, your ears and your eyes have to be much more attuned than your mouth when you pitch. It's really about observing and hearing the interests of others, and that really informs your pitch the most. So here's where we're going to go today, and this agenda may not help you all that much other than be fun and funny. So we're going to talk about dancing. We're going to talk about the dead seagull. We're going to talk about nights, baby food, the ask, pancakes, and then finally we're going to talk about Test My Pitch, not to promote our company at all, but the Connecticut Technology Council has actually sponsored your access to our site so that you can practice, so that you can draft and get before the Innovation Summit. So we're real excited. We'd love to have you guys take full advantage of it. So we'll do a quick overview of that, and certainly answer any questions. So I would encourage you to ask questions as we go along. We're going to kind of pace along fairly quickly, but hop in, ask your questions. It's totally fine that we be interactive. For those that are just joining, this is also recorded, so if you missed anything, you'll be able to watch it and review that later. So let's hop in, and we're first going to talk a little bit about the Innovation Summit itself. So for those that haven't seen the overview, there are a variety of activities the day of the Innovation Summit. There are mentor meetings, there's a funding fair, a pitch fest, a TCTW Expo. What does TCTW stand for, Paige? I'm sorry, I didn't see it on the website.
Tech companies to watch.
Those are the... perfect. Excellent.
poster displays.
Gotcha. And then there's an awards ceremony, and it's certainly the largest tech networking event in Connecticut. So a great, great opportunity to meet with all the folks who you want to meet with in one room. So it's going to be great, and I think, this kind of speaks to the point of being nimble. We're going to have folks who are giving 3-minute pitches. They're going to be 10-second pitches. There are going to be all sorts of opportunities to interact. And one of the things I've observed, it seemed like during the summer I was going to a lot of accelerator demo days, and one of the things I observed, and just something to be aware of, is particularly when you think about the tech companies to watch expo, or any time when you have and the co-founders or any employees around. Quite often what I've observed at a lot of these events is that the founder is very fluent, can talk really to anybody, and is generally fairly flexible in adapting to the audience. But often the co-founders and/or staff are not. And I've seen this repeated many times at a lot of these demo days where there are people coming up to the table and it's only the founder that's interacting, and the rest of the team isn't prepared to do that. And so there are a variety of tactics around that. And just so you all know, we're going to have a second workshop, and I'll talk about it a little bit more at the end, but Paige mentioned networking. We're going to talk, I think it's the 24th of the month. We've got another Friday afternoon workshop, and or noontime workshop, and we'll be talking specifically about networking at the Innovation Summit. So stay tuned for that, and again, we'll give you all the highlights at the end of this webinar. So let's first talk about dancing. So I'm going to, as we go through, I'm going to ask some questions. I absolutely invite you to chime in. If I don't hear anybody, I can entertain myself, so I'll keep going. But so when you think about pitching, when do you think your pitch starts? You're going to an event, let's say the Innovation Summit. When does your pitch start? Anybody?
As soon as they see you.
Yeah, it started already. So it's really, a pitch is just an ability to make an impression, and then there's some reaction you want from that impression. So let's put it in the context of one event. So just imagine, as soon as you walk in the door, you're beginning to pitch, and pitch isn't just what you say. It's how people relate to you. So are you treating people well? Are you asking good questions? Are you interested in people you're interacting with? I think there are all sorts of ways that we can create an impression about ourselves so that when we actually stand up to pitch, people really want to hear what we have to say, and they interact with us very well. And you think about, imagine if you had the opportunity to identify key people in the room, and you made sure that you met with them or said hi or had some interaction before the formal pitching started. Well, those key people likely will, by the time you pitch formally, will have heard your story twice. And so, as we all know, when you hear something repeatedly, you learn more. You learn more with each exposure. And so that can be a really valuable thing. And so you really want to make sure that you take advantage of all the time. One of the things that I've seen quite a bit is people get challenged when they go to pitch events in that they can be very inwardly focused. In other words, I'm still preparing. I'm practicing my script or whatever I'm doing, and they miss the opportunities to make those connections that not only are valuable long term, but also create that opportunity for somebody to get to know you better at this event. And when you formally pitch, they're much more prepared to hear you. And so if you start them a little further along when you're pitching, they catch more. They're able to absorb more, and it can be very valuable. So taking advantage of the dance of all the opportunities it's really going to help you leverage much more about the event. I'm sorry?
I thought Jack was in there.
Did somebody say something?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Well, let's keep going. So that's dancing, and so dead seagulls. This is certainly very dramatic, and I apologize for being so blunt. But this is really important to the pitch. Actually, I believe it's the most important part of the scripting of a pitch is that you clearly problem. And when you clearly define the problem, then your audience can follow the rest of your story. And so the problem really comes in a couple of parts. Certainly, the dead seagull itself is a problem, but it's really just an indicator of a much bigger problem or a much bigger issue. And it's really ultimately the problem is, what does the customer realize because of that dead seagull? What is their issue? Whether it's they have a dirty beach, their waterway is dirty, and they can't enjoy, they can't fish anymore, they're not able to earn a living, but really clearly defining the problem as the customer realizes it. So there's a real danger when we start putting together our script in talking way too much about the product, way too little about the problem. And again, the problem as defined by the customer. What do they realize? What in their life doesn't work, is bad, is causing them injury in some way that your problem that your product will eventually solve. And so the more this can be dramatic and clear, the better it's going to be. And the more that you can talk about how you validated the problem, so clearly defining it, but then what you've done to assure yourself that there is that problem and that people want to solve it, and in fact that they're committed to solving it, and is really, really important. And again, particularly if we're putting it in the context of investment, this speaks to, you think of what investors invest in, and the investors that I talk to, 30 to 70% of their decision about who to invest in has to do with the team. And a lot of people will come at this with brilliant resumes, with having started and sold companies for great multiples, or that they went to the best school, or any of those types of things. But there's nothing that speaks to an investor better than your knowledge of your customer and your ability to share with them the intimacy you have with your customer. That tells them not just a lot about the market opportunity, but it tells them a lot about your understanding about what's important in your business. And the fact that you're learning and you're open to learning are really, really key indicators. So we want to, part of the pitch is giving the investors or the audience exposure, not just to our business, but to us and to our ability to evolve and learn and as needed, even pivot our ideas so that we continue to be market relevant. So that's dead seagull. So it may be pretty obvious then what knight in shining armor is. So really, once we understand the problem, then it's really about talking about the solution and why we're the best ones to solve this problem, why we're aligned with this, why we're prepared to do it, why we have the background and history to do it. All are important, and so this is really where we talk about both the solution and ourself, and again, why it would be the most relevant for the market and most able to take advantage of this window. So this is probably of all these. This is when you talk about. So we talked about substance in terms of what we're going to say. In terms of form, in other words, how we're going to say it. This is probably the most important in that regard. And this item or this issue is called baby food. And when you think about baby food, what's unique about baby food? And again, just so you know, I'm asking you a question. Please respond to it if you have a thought. what's a unique characteristic of baby food?
They like it.
Easy to swallow.
Easy to swallow. Excellent. Were there some other? There are a couple of people talked over each other.
Tastes good.
It tastes good. Yeah. So it's easy to swallow. It tastes good. You might even say it's easy to digest. So when you think about your scripts and the way you deliver it, you want to make sure that for your audience, your words are baby food, that it's really easy for them to accept your words, understand them, and digest them. Because it's not only that you're not only appealing to them and trying to get them to understand your idea and to become advocates or investors, but they're trying to understand all sorts of actions. And so it can be very, we have to be cognizant of the fact that they're processing a lot of information, and we want to help them process our information easily and be able to act on it. And one of the best tests for this is, and it's very easy to do, and you can do it with friends or relatives or whatever, is just simply, either deliver your pitch or part of it or describe your service or product to someone and ask them to tell you what you just said. And you can do this. It's a wonderful test. You can do it as often as you want. But when the whole idea of baby food, and as you think about people that you respect in the way they speak, so you might think of some politicians or some great orators over time. When you look back at at the text of their speeches, there are no complex words. There are no multisyllabic words. They're all very simple, easy, common words that allow people, again, to understand the core of what they're doing or the core value and to be able to act on it. So when you think about your pitch, make sure that you simplify it to the point where it's easy for people to digest. And the whole point of these pitches isn't to have them buy something. You'll never get, I say never, that's a too big of a generalization, but it would be very rare that you'll find somebody that will walk up after you do a 10-second, a 3-minute, a 5-minute, even a 20-minute pitch and say, I have a check for you. Really what you want is another interaction. You want questions, you want a meeting. And so the pitch is really about how do you activate that. And if you speak over their head, if you use jargon and it's not easy for them to understand, they don't know enough to be interested. And so again, keeping it simple is absolutely paramount to this, really making it easy for people to digest. So we have baby food. Let's see. Okay, the ask. There are a whole lot of pitches that happen where either because people run out of time or because they, for some reason, leave it out. But the ask is really what you want the audience to do based on your pitch. So, you might be seeking investment, you might be seeking co-founders or key resources or pilot customers, whatever the case is. But it's really key that your pitch doesn't go without an ask. You have to have an ask in there, or else people don't know what it is you're looking for. And the audience can help you in a variety of ways. They might be the direct solution for what it is you're looking for, or chances are someone in their network is. And so it's really about not just informing them for their own benefit and so that they can jump in and help, but it could be informing them so that they can activate a friend of theirs who's not there to come in and help. And so if you don't get to the ask, you really lose the opportunity of that networking opportunity or of that networking event. And so being really clear as to what you're looking for and how the audience can help you is really, really key. So kind of the final slide in this presentation, at least in terms of forming a pitch, is about pancakes. And you kind of trying to piece all this stuff together. What the heck do pancakes have to do with it? So I would guess there are a fair amount of people on this call who have cooked pancakes before. So there's, at least for most of us, there's something different about the first pancake than all the rest of them. When you cook pancakes, what's different about the first pancake than the rest of the pancakes? Anyone?
Not as good.
They're terrible. they're usually awful. And you know, if you have a dog nearby, it's typically what goes to the dog. So think of pitching the same way. I mean, I've been cooking pancakes for over 40 years, and I practice this a lot, and I've never, ever been able to start with a second pancake. As much as I try, I have to always start with the first pancake, which is not good. And the same could be said for pitching, and you can't start, just like a writer knows, you can't start with a final draft. You have to start with a first draft. And pitches are the same thing. It's really about the number of times you pitch. There's a direct relationship between that and the quality or the value of your pitching. And so it's really about the more you can get out and do it, and the more you can get feedback, the more you're able to pitch effectively and well. And so this is, you know, the key here is not to worry about the fact that you know your first pancake isn't good. You can't cook pancakes unless you cook bad pancakes. It doesn't happen. And I'll promise you, you can't pitch well unless you pitch poorly. And it's really important to not worry about sort of the pitch, you know, a single pitch. It's really about what do you do over time. And again, you're going to get lots of opportunities, and it's really, you know, how do you elevate that skill? And it's part of it is what you say. Part of it's the confidence that you show in saying it, which comes with time. And then it's kind of how you say it. And it's really the combination of those three things, because a lot of people sort of look at a pitch like a performance. And it's funny because those of us that are analytic, we go, no, it's just, you know, if I'm technically competent, it's a good pitch. But that's not the case. If the audience doesn't respond to you, if they're not motivated by you in some way, in a positive way, then likely there's going to be a disconnection. So it's really about both getting the words right and also building those performance skills. And the more you can show and get them to follow your story and to sit forward or lean forward as you're talking, the more you know you've engaged that audience, and the more that they're going to come up afterwards and ask you questions and want to meet with you and all those types of things. So there were some questions that were submitted. So we've got definitely a couple minutes for questions. I'm going to first hit the questions that were submitted, and then we can go through any other questions that folks have. So the first question is, how should entrepreneurs handle questions on enterprise valuation from the audience after the pitch? So there's a variety of issues with talking about investment or valuation in a broad audience. And I guess, and again, with these questions, we're all going to play somewhat different movies, so let me say that up front. But what I've seen and what I've heard is that you're much better off to defer those types of questions to talking one-on-one, you know, and it's really a matter of sort of sidestepping it and saying, you know, that's a really good question. I absolutely want to have that conversation with you. If you don't mind, just respecting the time here, I'd love to do it, you know, once we're finished and we can chat about it one-on-one, or anyone else that wants to join us, that's great. But it's better to defer those valuation and or investment questions to much more of a discrete conversation. let's see, the next question is, what is the most important information an investor is looking for in a 3 to 5 minute pitch presentation? So that's a really good question. So there are two ways to answer that. And I promise you that no matter who you ask this question of, they're going to give you a different list. And this presentation, this workshop, is really designed completely the other way than giving you a formula to say that, you know, here are the 12 things or the 14 things that every investor needs to have to make the decision. I promise you that every investor is totally different. There are certainly some similarities as you start grouping them together, but the idea that there's a formula, I think is a little naive in the process. When we go and post the webinar, I can also post some sort of 14 slide rules. There are a couple of good examples that I could give for anyone that really wants that kind of information. It's a good start, but I think I would really pay attention to the specific audience that you're going to talk to and make sure you cater to their needs. So specific to this, we're going to, in a couple minutes, go into the Test My Pitch tool. And part of that you'll see is a templating process. That will give you a really good idea of what should be included in the investor or in the pitches for the Innovation Summit. And in fact, the feedback will be aligned with the judging criteria for the Innovation Summit. So, you know, that will be your best guide. And again, I'll share some other information along with this webinar when we post it. Let's see, the next question is, how do you qualify a prospect as a likely investor before spending a lot of time talking about your opportunity with unqualified prospects? Good question. So that's a great question. So what I would suggest, and this is going to happen certainly at the or at the Innovation Summit, and if you have a poster table, you know, you may have just yourself, or you may have a few of your teammates there with you. A lot of folks that I've seen be most effective in these settings, if they have a couple of people, will have one person be sort of the intake person. In other words, they're out front in the, you know, at the demo table, and they're qualifying people as they come in. You know, can you tell me a little bit about your background and interest and so on? And if the person's sort of a good investor prospect, then they go to the CEO or whoever's handling those conversations. If they're maybe a potential customer, they go to another person. But you can have that sort of triage or intake person kind of leading the way. You know, I think, you know, thinking about a few other scenarios. So another scenario might be where you're alone, you're at the demo table, and you know, people are coming up to talk. It's not a bad thing to stop the conversation and say, you know, you're asking me great questions about our business. I really appreciate that. I may be able to put it or have my answers sort of better tailored to your interests if you could tell me a little bit more about yourself. And so, you know, kind of what's your background? Have you invested in businesses before? Can you give me some examples? Those types of things. And that way you can get some indication of who it is you're talking to. You know, and probably another way to do it would be at any networking event, you want to have conversations that are fairly brief, because you're probably not going to close an investment round at the event. So that you really want to have enough of a conversation to see if it makes sense to get together, either virtually or, you know, in person. That's really what you want to get to. So you want to figure out with this person, what are the things I need to know to determine if it makes sense for us to get together. That's really it. Once you've determined that, then you just say, great, is there a time in the next week or two that we can get together? And you're done. Okay, let's see. The next question is, do you have an outline for pitch essentials? How much time should be devoted to each? What format should your presentation look like to support your pitch? All good questions. So as I said earlier, I'll share a couple of format ideas. On Test My Pitch, you'll have some outline ideas. But specifically to the presentation, so you all have seen the slides that I used today. The idea of using one graphical image and telling a story around it is becoming fairly common. I guess there is some latitude here for creativity. So this isn't necessarily the best way or the only way, but maybe it's easier to describe the things that you shouldn't do in terms of the presentation itself. So a couple of things. One is, and this is what one thing you should do is really pay strong attention to your environment. I was judging a pitch event recently, and there were 4 or 5 judges, and the judges were only about 30 feet from the people pitching, but we didn't hear very much of the pitches. We were right under the HVAC system, and so unfortunately it kept coming on pretty much most of the time during people's pitches, and we just couldn't hear them. And so we'd see the lips moving, the mouths moving, but we get every a few sentences we'd hear some stuff. And this pitch event was just a practice pitch event, so it wasn't. We actually were able to get people to pitch again, and we said, hey, we didn't want to interrupt you because we wanted to see if somebody would observe this. No one did. A couple of people talked a little louder, which is great. But what would you do if that were the case? Obviously, moving towards the people you want to communicate with, speaking louder, all those types of things are really, really important. So being observant is key. The other thing, and specific to slides, is
what happens when you're looking at your the people that you're pitching to, and a lot of the people are on their cell phones texting or their iPads, which is pretty common today. What do you do? How do you handle that?
Well, I suppose you don't know that they're not taking notes, right?
I 99% bet they're not. Yeah.
I mean, but you don't know. So, I guess if you observed it before you got up there, you could certainly ask the organizer to, is there something, in other words, there are a few people that pitched before you. It might be something where you just ask the organizer, is this customary that people aren't paying attention during the pitches? And that might spur the organizer to say, hey guys, these people have spent a lot of time preparing. Can you turn your cell phones off and your tablets off and pay attention? I would be really careful of scolding people during your pitch. I'm not sure that's going to help you.
Oh no, I think you'll be able to scope them before you even get up there. You'll do it the way they're acting now.
Sure, and I think if you could get the organizer to be the bad guy, if you will, I think that would be a lot better for you. Does that make sense?
Oh, 100%. Thank you.
Cool. Sure. So what I was going to say about slides is, there still are people who are putting a lot of information on slides, either a lot of text or a whole lot of confusing images. The rule, and I think this rule is probably outdated, it has always been sort of 5 by 5. In other words, no more than 5 bullets and 5 words per bullet. I think you're down to almost like a 5-2, or 5-3. In other words, 5 bullets by 2 or 3 words, and 1 word is much preferred. And in fact, slides with no words are sometimes the most provocative. And maybe it's a mix of those things. And sometimes there's just one thought that's on a slide. In other words, 2 or 3 words that give a thought. But the tendency when you have a lot of text, not only is it terrible for the audience, but the tendency is to turn around and read the text. In which case, it's really doesn't speak well for the individual. So again, thinking about what you're trying to do, you're trying to tell a story, you're trying to take people on a journey, but you're also performing. They're also evaluating you. How prepared are you? How good are you going to be at talking to customers, at convincing people to buy your product. I mean, those are all things that you're exposing people to. So there's a lot of nonverbal communication that's happening that is informing the audience, the investors, and so on about you. And so I would tend to not depend on the slides, but have them there to support your story. Is probably the best way to frame it. So I've got just a couple minutes, and then I'm going to hop over to the Test My Pitch platform, and we'll go to this new site that the Connecticut Tech Council has sponsored for the Innovation Summit. But are there other questions that I can help answer around pitching? Cool. Well, let's go over. We'll go to this site. Again, the whole goal of the site is to help individuals draft, post, and then get feedback on their pitches for the summit itself. So the URL is very simple: iSummit as an innovation summit.testmypitch.com. And so what I'm going to do now is just go over to the website. So this is what it looks like. On your screen, you should now see Connecticut Innovation Summit, the logo for the event, and we're at the URL iSummit.testmypitch.com. So what we're going to do is a couple things. One is we're going to go and essentially go through the process of posting a pitch, and I'm actually going to start on this site and then actually go over to another site that actually has pitches on it so that we can look at posted pitches and so on. But I'm going to, the way you're going to create an account, actually very simple. When you go to this URL, it's an open URL, so as long as you have the web address, you can come to it and create an account. So you'll just say, go to this place and click on Need an Account, and that'll take us to create a free account. And you fill out this information. There are just a couple things that I would point out for you. Down at the bottom, there are a couple of questions. Receive emails when comments are posted, and then receive the daily summary. If you want to get immediate notification or get notification when there are comments on your pitches, you want to leave that as yes. And if you want to see or get notification of on a daily basis of any pitches that were posted, and if there are no pitches posted, you don't get a notification. But you'll want to have that response as yes. Otherwise, you can put those to no. And then you just create an account. The system will send you a verification email, and there is a chance that it will go to your spam folder. So if you don't receive that verification email in a minute or two, then look in your spam folder, and then, like all these type of sites, just click on the link, and you'll have verified your account, and you'll be able to log in with the credentials you created. Your login is your email address and whatever password that you used or created. So let's now go and log in. So I'm going to log in. I have challenge of doing this. I have so many IDs, it gets a little daunting. But so we're now logged in as a user, and we're at the user menu. And we're going to go to Manage Introductions and Pitches. And these are specific to us, and I haven't posted anything yet, so this is what it'll look like when you start as well. And then we'll just click on Create a New Pitch Now. And we're now at Create a Pitch, Step 1. Is there anyone that's not there? Okay, cool. So you'll see we have two choices, and this system is flexible. We may add other choices as the program goes along, but right now we have, we can create a business idea pitch, which would be the pitches for the Innovation Summit, or a networking self-introduction. So you may want your team and yourself to create a self-introduction. That way, when they're meeting people, when they're networking, they're able to function and be much more prepared to interact with folks. So let's take a look at business idea. You've got the 3-minute pitch, which obviously is tailored to the Innovation Summit, and then we'll click on networking introduction. You've got a few choices. I want to describe myself or my business in 10 seconds, 30 seconds, or 60 seconds. Again, this will be a templated process that takes them through it. So just so we get an example of what this looks like, we'll click on business idea and go to the 3-minute pitch. And this template, the whole idea is to make it really easy for you to form your first draft of your pitch very quickly, and to make sure that it has all the ingredients in it. So really, it's just a matter of answering these questions. So you just, in each field, answer the various questions as best you can. There may be some questions that don't apply, and that's totally good. I think in this there may be 8 or 9 questions, something like that. But again, it's a few minutes. This isn't intended, don't spend a lot of time at your first draft. Just get down your ideas, post it, and get response. And so we fill this in as best we can, and then hit save and continue. And what I'm going to do, as opposed to going through the process here, because it'll take a couple minutes, is I'm going to log in to another site that actually has some pitches, and we can take a look. So I'm just going to go to this site. Oh, let me log in as a different user. I'm sorry. It's always wonderful in a demo when you go to the wrong place. One sec. Okay, this one will have a pitch under this ID. Again, sometimes it's hard to remember all the personalities. So here we go. Here's a pitch that was posted a couple months ago, and it's a business idea pitch. So when I filled out that form and hit save and continue, all of my responses to those questions would flow into this text editor. And then it's up to me to move the text around, to edit it, to create a sort of a cogent statement or a solid pitch. And once I feel I've got a draft, it doesn't, again, need to be perfect, then we continue on. The other thing to point out here is there's a word counter. So for a 3-minute pitch, you get 450 words. So for every minute, it's about 150 words is sort of our average speaking rate. And so that the tool will also keep you within those time limits. You can post a pitch just in text form, or you can go and create a video of your pitch. You could do YouTube, Vimeo, any of the standard platforms, and put your embed code in here. That way, obviously, you would be able to get much more feedback if you post a video of your pitch as well. And so once we've done that, we just hit save and continue. And I'm actually going to, instead of hitting save and continue, I'm going to just go back out and look at a pitch that was posted. So let's look at, so we're now looking at this pitch as a posted pitch. So here's the text, and then you'll see the video, and then you'll see that I've gotten some feedback as well. So, and this is a different set of criteria than is in the iSummit site, but it gives you a sense of the criteria, and that you get a numeric score, and you get a variety of text comments, and you'll get much more volume of text comments. This is just a demo site, but you'll get really strong comments around the various components of your pitch, and the more you can practice beforehand, it's funny, when all of us started communicating, we might practice a speech or a pitch in front of a mirror. We might practice it in front of friends and family, and sort of each iteration comes with, you can't play back the pitch in front of the mirror, and you can't, sort of review it. But the whole goal of this tool is really to be sort of the next level of that, where not only will you learn a lot by going through the process of forming your pitch and videoing yourself and then posting it, but then to get feedback that you can begin looking at, several different points of view in terms of feedback, and get it contextualized against specific criteria, will really help how quickly and how well you learn to communicate effectively. And so I'd really encourage you to use it as much as you can. I'll share my contact info, so if you have questions or there's something specific that we can do to help you, we'd absolutely be glad to do it. just two other things I'm going to point out on here. One is down in the lower right-hand corner, you'll see this gray box that says, was this comment helpful? I've already responded to this, so you don't see the whole thing. But as you go in and look at feedback that was given to you, you're actually able to rate the feedback and either say it was helpful or it wasn't helpful. That will help us over time elevate reviewers, help identify the people who are giving the most effective and beneficial reviews. And certainly your engagement in that is really key. One other quick thing to point out, for those that haven't videotaped themselves, I'll tell you, it's so easy to do. Everything from your smartphone to your tablet to your PC has recording devices on them, and it takes, you'll find that just videotaping yourself and looking at your own videotape, you'll get much better by doing that. But then when you post it and get feedback on it, you'll get a lot of really, really helpful comments. And so I would highly recommend it. So just one other thing to point out here on the site is you'll see about midway down the user menu is a choice that says Invite Mentor. So the Tech Council is inviting coaches and mentors onto the site to give you feedback, but you're able to also invite other people who you'd want to give you specific feedback. So you can invite a friend, a coworker, a mentor of any form, and it's just as simple as putting in their first name and their email address and then inviting them. I would suggest when you do that you send that person an email and let them know to look for the invitation, and again to look in their spam folder should they not see it immediately. But let them know that you've invited them and why you've invited them and kind of what you hope from them in doing so. That's a quick overview of Test My Pitch. Are there any questions?
Bill?
Yeah,
I'm wondering.
I had a question. Hi, I wrote a question about valuation.
I actually answered it. Were you?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you'll want to watch the webinar. We'll post it in about a day. So as opposed to going backwards for everybody else, if you could just take a look at the webinar, that'd be great.
Thank you. Bye.
Oh, no problem. Let's see. There was another question.
Well, I was going to ask you, Bill, that in this process, you go through and create a presentation or create a text answering those questions, and then you just try to read through that text and videotape yourself doing that?
So yeah, so it's really a couple of steps, right? So you want to we think of it as assembling your pitch assets. So what are the core things in your pitch that need to be included, and that's really what that form is trying to get out of you is what are the big rocks or the big elements. Those flow into the text editor. From there, you want to take those raw ingredients and form a story. And so you may change the order that they're in. You may, make them a much clearer and refined statement, whatever it is, but it needs to go from that raw form into a, if you will, a pitch or a speech that is compelling. And then from there, you can either post that story, that pitch, or you can go on and create a video of you reciting that and in a compelling way. And then you can post the video and the text. It's really your choice, but you want to really sort of look at the information from the first step as really just getting the big elements onto a piece of paper, and then from there you make them into sort of a compelling story. Does that make sense?
One follow-up question.
Sure.
Once you've got it put into a compelling order and story, is there a way, if I wanted to record myself just using the camera on my laptop, is there a way for me to get it up on the screen and use that as a script that I can run through on my laptop. There are tools for that.
Yeah, I do it all the time. Yeah, you should be able to play whatever you can record on your laptop. One of the things I do when I'm driving actually is just use a recorder that's on my smartphone. So I'm not even videotaping. It's just an oral version. So I think there are a lot of ways of getting sort of draft information down, or getting, because it's one thing to have the raw ingredients. It's a whole nother thing to have it be a cogent story. And so yeah, I think whatever form helps you sort of get to that place. I'm a much better talker, or at least in my own mind, than I am a writer. So I get to a much better written place if I talk, if I dictate first.
Mm-hmm.
But we're all different. They're very good natural writers as well. So
one quick comment, on what you started with early on today about, how you enter the room and how you're talking to people. I have represented VCs, and they've always said they invest in people, not in the business plan. Because it's the people who are going to make it work, or going to adjust it to make it work as they go through.
Yeah, it's amazing, and that story just keeps sort of it just keeps getting reinforced as well, and more important, the adage is investors look for A people, and they're happy with B ideas if they get A people. So yeah, somehow you want to show them that you're A people. So one other thing just to share with you, kind of in closing, and again, I'm more than happy to stay on with anyone that wants to continue to talk. I'm conscious of our schedule. So we're going to do another session on October 24th at noon, and this will be specifically about effective networking at the summit. We'll get into sort of tactics of working in the room, around sort of scripting your conversations with individuals. If there are other people in your organization, other team members that aren't necessarily pitching but will be in the room that day, I'd highly recommend that they participate in this. It's really where the leverage comes from. So little of it comes from what you say on stage, if you will, versus what happens the rest of the day. And it's kind of like an iceberg. Everybody pays attention to the pitch, but they kind of miss the interaction part. My contact information is here, and again, I absolutely would be tickled to help anybody or work with you. And we don't sell consulting service, so absolutely happy to help. And if there's something, a question you have or anything, feel free to reach out. Any other questions that we can help address before we conclude today? Well, I got to absolutely thank you all. I'm going to stop the recording, and certainly anyone that wants to hang out and chat, please do.